Ah. You know what that smells like? It smells like it's Friday, people. Hello and welcome to Feedback Friday. This message brought to you by Tricky Troy and a renewed Coke Zero supply. Friends, it is Friday. It's been a minute. We've been super busy with productions. And thank you all for your continued support, for enjoying the content that we're producing. Today, I want to answer questions that you guys have. And I also want to give you some updates on the shows that we're producing, how things are going with the cast, and a few other kind of general gaming related topics. So without further ado, let's see who's in the mix. Wow, we got a happening room here. All right, DOD, Mushu, Rymore Morris, Oh Great Bearded One, Scott Marish, Robert Dogs Paymaster, Dovahkiin Templar. Wow, it's been a minute, Dovahkiin. Nerd Garage, Natcat. Nice. It's good to have you all here. Michael Flynn, hello, hello. Good, good, good. A lot of familiar faces here. It's good to see everybody. It's going to be a minute for me to just get through. Shallandor's here. Good to see you, my friends. Topo, welcome. Glad y'all can make it. Istvan is here. Nice, 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 nice. Everybody's in the house. Everybody's saying hello. I'm almost caught up. I'm almost caught up. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. First time I've seen, yeah. Yeah, that you weren't supposed to see that. Carafa came up too early. Don't worry, he'll be punished later. I'll flay him. All right, Dark Skull, Eletheus. Smurf Colf. Nerd Garage, I'm not here, I'm only a Fig Newton in your imaginations. Carniedas, allo, allo. So, bienvenue, bienvenidos, guten tag, buongiorno, welcome all. So, let's start off with the shows. So if you guys have been following season 4, we have 2 groups in the same continent, in the same world. And it's pretty exciting because the 2 groups are working for opposite factions. So the Medusas, since before the Medusas, in the B team, Jenny and Jordan had pledged their allegiance to the blonde elf, Lord Finoop. And not only did they pledge their deep allegiance, but they actually underwent the ritual of the Medusa tattoo. And then, since now in season 4, they have recruited additional people to assist them with their quest, working for Lord Finoop, to acquire more of the elemental crystals. So, as it's going, they're in one direction, heading towards another direction. The other group is the Vixens. And the Vixens are carrying on from where season 3's group left off. So Beth is playing Mantra. They have the artifact itself, the item which will eventually hold all the crystals, and they've gone off in another direction to also seek one of the elemental crystals. They, however, are working for the dark, curly-haired, human-looking man who presented himself as Finoop in season 3 as well. So a lot of people have confusion. In the comments, people have said, how can there be 2 Finoops? I thought Finoop was the blonde elf. And some of you have guessed that Finoop is a moniker or a pseudonym or a an alias, and some of you have guessed that it means something else. And I don't want to give spoilers away, but there are definitely two different people in the story who are presenting themselves as Finoop. The blonde elf, who you guys even might remember from season 2, who took Trixie and Willie on, has now also taken Capella and Arya and the Medusas into their coterie. And they are under the employ of that blonde elf who calls himself Lord Finoop. The other Finoop, the human-looking man with the dark curly hair and gaudy clothing, also claimed that he was Finoop. And so that caused some confusion, but it's definitely not a mistake. Despite the title of this video, that's not the mistake that I made. The mistake I may have made was giving too much information to Beecher. Towards the end of season 3 and then the summer sessions, Beecher was gradually learning about his patron and getting more flashes of the direction in which his patron wanted him to go. And those of you who have watched all that stuff and put all the pieces together have figured out that Beecher's character, Olin, is in league with the Finoop with the dark curly hair and not the blonde elf. So 2 different factions, both being apparently led by a person claiming to be Finoop, both seeking these very specific elemental crystals, not just any elemental crystals, but very specific elemental crystals which fit into the artifact. Now, the mistake that I made, as this Feedback Friday indicates, is during one of the explanations with the Medusas, I mixed up the size of the crystals. So the specific elemental crystals for earth, water, wind, and fire that fit into the slots in the artifact are about the size of a D20. That's what they're supposed to be, about the size of a large D20. The black orb that fits in the middle is about the size of an 8-ball. And I accidentally described what they were looking for as about the size of an 8-ball, when in fact it's not supposed to be. So that was my mistake, which is difficult to it's easy for me to explain that, and I did do that for the players so they know, so they're not confused. But for you guys in the audience, just to be clear, the 4 specific elemental crystals that activate the device are the size of a big D20, and the black orb that sits in the middle is the size of an 8-ball. So hopefully that clears it up. I'm sure I'll still get comments and questions, but that's the mistake I made in describing those things. Okay, so that kind of clarifies one thing. You guys have questions. I have some answers. Andy. So my friend Andy Hand, welcome to the live stream. Andy has his own company, Limitless Adventures. They produce a bunch of content that is 5e compatible, but also I would argue that it's pretty flexible and could be used in almost any setting. To the extent that Andy and his partners started developing 5th Evolution. And that's basically a way to take your 5e rule set and using their additional source material, play out adventures in a number of different genres and settings, which includes things like superheroes or just modern adventure or World War II era stuff. They have a whole bunch of expansions. So I am going to paste a link in the comments below because Limitless is going to be at LionCon. And they are not only going to be a vendor at LionCon, they're actually going to be running some content at our convention, which is very exciting because they have some really cool content. I'm going to paste the link in the chat below so you guys can see this. So please check that out. Read along if you will. But just to give you a heads up, they have run several successful Kickstarters, and the one they're currently running right now is Whitechapel Vigilance Committee. So if you're not familiar, Whitechapel is basically the setting for Jack the Ripper. So if you were ever wondering what it would be like to play a like Victorian era Gaslight style adventure mystery kind of genre, they are making this for you, and I think it's awesome. Particularly because I'm currently watching a show called Ripper Street, and I also just dig like the whole Sherlock Holmes vibe. So this is super exciting. So if you're looking to back a Kickstarter that will provide you with awesome content that you can run, and I think, dare I say, many of their other products are also really cool. They had another recent successful Kickstarter called the Blood Queen's Defiance. But check those out, limitless-adventures.com. And there's also a link to Fifth Evolution through that. So you can look at their expanded content that goes beyond just the fantasy genre. But they have a whole catalog of stuff, some of which is PDF only, some of which you can buy in hardcover. But it's a lot of really cool stuff across multiple genres. So what can we look forward to at LionCon 2020? What you can look forward to is an awesome weekend focused on the fun, nerdy stuff. So first and foremost, we built LionCon to be a small convention that is focused on gaming. So we have credentials for Adventurers League for both days. We have Saturday and Sunday Adventurers League stuff being run. There will be more info posted about it and registration information posted as we get through the rest of this month in November. We will also have Learn to Play multiple tables from our various vendors. Limitless Adventures will be there. They will have a vendor booth, but they're also going to be running some of their own content, which will be cool. Our friendly local game store, Fair Game, will also be there, and they're a partner in this, so they're going to be running content on both days. Not just role-playing games, but card games, Catan, Coup, a lot of fun games too. And one of the things that when I built LionCon, I wanted it to be open to the public and family friendly. So, I mean, my kids are there, other people's families are there, but there's plenty of adult tables too. So we will have DMs running D&D for beginners who've never played, as well as people who want to play more kind of mid-level stuff. And it'll be a combination of Forgotten Realms settings, as well as some of the published settings, as well as some homebrew material. So that's just a sneak preview of LionCon. On top of all that, I'm hoping to have, in addition to probably 8 different vendors that'll have their stuff there, a lot of cool art. We're going to have pinball. We're going to have video games. We are going to have a screening room. We're going to have a whole plethora of fun stuff. So LionCon's just a great, little event that we made, and it's a great opportunity for people of all ages to be there. I will be running some special games as well for some of you guys who are going to be in the area, and you'll have a chance to mix it up and play in some games with me, as well as be able to possibly participate in some games with the current season 4 cast members. So we haven't decided if we're going to do D&D or if we're going to run another game. Most of you guys probably saw or participated in the Call of Cthulhu live stream on Halloween night. That was so much fun, and we're really looking forward to what comes next with that. And we're kind of talking about what we could do, what we want to do. I've been talking to Jordan a lot about some options, so we'll see. But there's definitely more connections between what we're doing with the shows and what we're going to do live at LionCon, as well as possibly doing a monthly live stream of a game. So, let me get caught up in the chat. That was one question with an answer that was like 10 minutes long. You get a Finoop. You get a Finoop. I want a Finoop. I never met a Finoop I could trust. That's probably a good idea. Sorry, I'm getting caught up. Okay. Yodestein, what's up, my friend? Andy, anytime I can give you guys a shout out, I definitely will. Oh, and while I'm giving shout outs, so our event, LionCon, is in February. And then shortly thereafter is Lexicon, which is actually an event run in central Illinois, in Lexington, Illinois, and largely produced by Andy and the guys at Limitless Adventures. So I went there last year, had a total blast, and God willing, I'll be able to go this year as well and run some more content and maybe even stay for the whole weekend. So who knows? Who knows what we'll see? I think the dark-haired Finoop is actually a Tom Baker Doctor Who. You know, oh great bearded one, you're not far off. Smurf says, don't remember if I told you before, but where did your thought about doing D&D and the students come from? Love from Sweden. Okay, so real fast, the idea to do D&D with the students was a total accident. We happened to be doing D&D with Brian Thomas and his group from Initiative Coffee Company. We had left the table out in the studio. The students saw it. They knew that we had been playing D&D, and they asked me if they could do that as a project. At first I said no, and then I realized what a great opportunity it would be for them to use their video production skills to produce a gaming show. In short order, that led to the success of the channel and really blew things up from there and opened up more opportunities for us to connect with gaming conventions like Gen Con and GaryCon and Lexicon and maybe even some more stuff. So it's been a great opportunity for me and my students. And you guys supporting us has been such a huge thing. So thank you for that. Good question. A lot of Finoop things here. I'm sorry. I got to get caught up on the chat. Okay. D&D and Cthulhu are my two favorite games. Yes, I loved the live stream of Cthulhu, and I think you guys did too. We had a real fun time with it. What we're trying to do, guys, to be honest, is figure out whether we want the monthly live stream that we do to actually be Call of Cthulhu or to be a different game. We also would like to figure out a way to have a regular cast, but also have like an open seat where like every episode we have a special guest or maybe even recurring guests. So that's another thing that we're working through right now. Yes, Dark Skull mentions a Shadowrun or cyberpunk game would be fun. That's true. And you know, in some ways, I wish I had more time for everything because put simply, I get, you know, a million different options and things that I used to play that I'd love to play again. Like I would love to play Cyberpunk again. I'd love to play Shadowrun again. I would love to play Top Secret, which was one of the original TSR games about espionage. And they relaunched a new version of that. So yeah. By the way, Beecher says hi to everyone. Hopefully we'll see him around Thanksgiving time, and maybe you guys will even be able to see him there. DoD Spec Ops, thank you for the Coke Zero pledge. Much appreciated, my friend. Tex, welcome Tex. The mistake that I referenced in the title is that when I was describing one of the elemental crystals to be used in the artifact to the Medusas, I described it as the wrong size. So the 4 elemental crystals are about the size of a big D20, and the black orb that goes in the middle of the artifact is the size of an 8-ball, and I had mistakenly described one of the elemental crystals as being the size of an 8-ball. So that was my error, and it caused a lot of confusion with you guys. So I'm sorry about that. I just basically mixed up my wording while I was running that narrative. Hey, Tori Fox. Ooh, James Woodwright has requested Lich's, Lich Eye, on Monster Monday. Yes, I have been trending. You know, in October I did a lot of kind of spooky horror kind of things, but I wanted to expand Monster Monday to look at other monsters as well. I think for what I have planned, I could definitely work Liches into the mix. I'm kind of now bouncing from low level to mid level to high level to low level to mid level to high level. I haven't touched on too much high level stuff yet, but I'm working my way there. You guys have probably noticed that there's been an absence of discussion about dragons and demons and devils and, you know, big high level creatures. And there's a reason for that. I kind of wanted to work my way up to some of those because some of those can be huge, overarching monster ideas that can fit into an entire campaign. And I really wanted to put a little more effort into thinking about suggestions for how you guys could use those. But I do appreciate the suggestions. And of course, you know, any of you guys, if you have suggestions, always leave me a comment and I will add them. I have a Google Doc where I keep all the suggestions from you guys for different things like Monster Monday or for Build with Bill if you want. If there's a specific class and race that you'd like to see me do a character build for, I'm happy to do that. Yes, Scott Marish, Top Secret. It's back. I actually, not last year, but the year before that at Gen Con, I met Merle Rasmussen, the original designer of the Top Secret game for TSR. And he has now worked with a new company, a new TSR, to produce Top Secret. And there's a new version of it, and it looks really cool and really updated. And he's back in the game, and he's the nicest guy on the planet. Yes, Top Secret is an awesome game. Yeah, so hopefully you guys we'll see some of the students on next Friday's Feedback Friday. We'll see some of the college students if they're coming back, and we'll have some special guests with us if they make it back in time. But yes. Robert says, confusion in the game can and should be used and abused by the game master. And you know what? I do agree with you if it's like in the game. If it's part of the fabric of the storyline of the game, I do weave confusion into the mix. But in this specific instance with the description of the crystals, even the kids were confused and they kind of called me on it. And so it can be hard because I didn't want to confuse the players because then they might actually literally miss what it is that they're supposed to be doing. So that's one of the reasons, and just the number of comments about people who were also confused. What is your favorite class to play? I love the monk. I would say rogue or warlock. Which player is my favorite so far? Ooh, that's tough. I will say that is a difficult question to respond to. So I love Sean and I love his character Willie. I don't know that Sean is like the best role player, but he definitely has fun playing the game. I also like Anna and her character Trixie. And even though they teamed up, they're also kind of very different. I have a soft spot in my heart for Carl and his character Rayloff, partially because Carl is just a really good improviser. And he has a strong personality. and he can really play a character really well. Now on the flip side, I think Jenny and Jordan are also really strong role players, but with a completely different style than what I'm typically accustomed to dealing with. So I would say I kind of like the lot of them for those different reasons. But see, then it's hard because I'm like, I also love Beecher and Sam and Tony because they have fun characters and they play them well, and the chemistry in season 3 was solid, That's hard. It's like asking a dad which one of his kids he loves the most. I can't answer that. Oh, I missed Nat Cat. Sorry, Nat. I wish you could stay longer. I'd like to hear what happened to characters from past seasons. Characters or players? So, I can give you a player update. Sean is in his second year of college at McPherson in Kansas. He is a automotive specialist, and he's just killing it down there. Anna is in college. I don't know really what she's doing there, but she's in college. Carl's in college at Savannah College of Art and Design. He's a screenwriter / film major. Heather is not in college. She's working professionally in the Chicago film industry doing makeup and special effects, which I absolutely love. I'm very proud of my Heather.
And she is not shook, and she has a leg.
Yes. Let's see. Skyla's in college. Beecher's in college. Sam is in college. Tony's in college. O'Malley's in college. Who else, Dave? Season 2 people. Matt Kavanaugh's in college. Jake Eby, Giraffa, he's in college. Yeah. So most of them have kept up, and kept in touch and given me little updates. A couple of them have stopped to visit. So, yeah, I'm hoping that they'll come around Thanksgiving time, and if not Thanksgiving, usually around Christmas break. Like the college kids get off before the high school kids, so they usually come home, and we'll try to do something. To be honest, I'd love to do like a game with the alumni. I think that would be fun. And if I could get it together schedule-wise, I will definitely post a link to it and let you guys know, and we'll do it live because I think that'd be awesome. Any thoughts on having a battle royale between the many players you have? Yes, I've thought about that consistently, all the time. However, I will not force it. I will not railroad them into fighting. If it happens, it's going to happen. And there's a good chance it'll happen. There's a good chance that the Medusas and the Vixens will go head to head because they're all after the same stuff. So it is a race in many ways. It's a race to get the crystals. But there's so many unknowns. There are so many variables that they might not. They might not. Mark Gump asks, has a question posed by a student ever given you an idea that changed the direction of the game compared to what you had planned? Yes. Not so much a question, more of like actions. I think the actions of some of the students were the cause for change inside the game. Now, outside of the game, I will tell you that there's a lot of dynamics when you're running D&D for high school kids. So, as an example, those of you who watched season 3, you will know that we started off season 3 with Matthew and Neely and Skyla and Tony and Beecher, and 3 of those people dropped out after a while. Neely was the first one to drop out, and that was, a combination of different things going on in life, and interpersonal relationships with people on the show and people not getting along and stuff like that. And then after Neely dropped out, Matthew kind of dropped out, and he was going to be doing the B team, but that kind of faded because of scheduling. Skyla was in and out because of a lot of reasons, personal reasons that I won't delve into, but ended up dropping out of the game. But I'm still close to Skyla, and and she's in a better place now in terms of her comfort level and her mental health and her wellness. So when you think about that kind of stuff, it really puts into perspective the importance of the chemistry of the people playing together at the table. Because I think about it and I'm like, season 3 started with that group of people, but season 3 really ended with Beecher, Tony, Sam, Beth, who took over Mantra, and Jake, who played Jirafa. I mean, those really became, the end cast for season 3. So I think a lot of things can change. I always, have an open mind and an open heart, because this is not, when the D&D shows are purely voluntary. Nobody's grade is attached to it. It's, I don't want kids to play unless they want to play. Now, that said, sometimes I think they want to play because they think it's going to be fun, and then maybe they're not that into it. You try something that you think is going to be good, and it's just not your particular jam. And then they aren't as interested in it anymore. So I'll be honest with you, season 4, we're still feeling that out. It's early in the season for both groups. I think there's a lot of development going on. But, that's one of the risks you take when you're running a game for people who have never played the game before and who are in high school and have other life things going on and drama or just not even drama, but just, classes, work, clubs, sports, whatever it is. So it's, the real life components do bleed into the game. As much as you'd like to keep them separate, people are people and they're real people. So, but that's also what makes it magical, because sometimes they connect, and then the game becomes so much more enriched because they're into it. So we'll see. We're very early into season 4, but that's a great question, though. I agree. I absolutely agree. Hey, Aquabone. All right, let me see. I'm kind of, what about the first season? Oh, yeah. So James asked about the first season. So do I keep in touch with all those people? So Heather I keep in touch with. I don't really see or hear from Brian Lee or Rory. I guess Rory hangs out with some of the other kids, so I'll hear from him every once in a while. But Brian, really, no, he kind of disappeared off the map.
Brian Lee works at Menards.
Oh, all right. So Dave says Brian Lee works at Menards. That's good.
I see him occasionally.
Yeah. Cooper lives in the neighborhood, so I see him every once in a while, or I hear from him, or get an update from him every once in a while. But yeah, I mean, the season 1 kids are well underway with life. So Heather's the one that I guess I've kept, the closest to, because Heather's still local, and she'll come back and visit us. We'll see Heather every couple months. But the good news is that Heather's busy doing what she set out to do, which is working in the film industry, and I'm very proud of her. And she's done a lot of cool stuff and met a lot of great people, and she's working on real things. So that's pretty exciting. Yeah, the camera setup for the final battle would have to be I think Dave would lose his mind. If we had 10 people around the table, that would be crazy. Hey, Tricky Troy, made it back. Welcome back, Troy. I'm sure you're exhausted, but thank you, buddy. This one goes to you. It was good to see you. So I got to meet Tricky Troy. He came through Chicago. Came out a couple times and hung out here at the studio with me and Dave and met some of the kids in the cast, and it was an awesome time. And we had a fine lunch. So, Troy, glad you made it back home safely, and yes. Wow, that's good timing, buddy. That is good timing. Well, let me give you a brief update then to the rest of you all. Scheduling is the toughest part, and it always has been. Since season 2, it has been, and it is, it still is. Life finds a way. Indeed. Indeed. Toasty, hello, Toasty. Are there kids who you thought would never get along and turned out to be an unexpected good combo? Yeah, kind of. I mean, season 3, I don't think any of those kids would have hung out together had it not been for LTTV. Like Samantha and Tony and Jake and Beecher, like, are all from kind of different crowds, but they intersected here. And also, I guess, through some other kind, like through music and stuff. But like, I don't think that they would have connected as much. And I think D&D kind of connected them in a lot of ways. If you were to ask me what group of people would still hang out together and party together, which season, it would absolutely be season 3. Because I don't think the season 1 people were friends outside of D&D, and I don't think season 2 very much would have been friends outside of D&D either. So I think season 3 was the tightest group of people. And maybe that's why it worked and why it had the most episodes, and yeah. That was a tight group. Now season 4, then again, is a different story, because the Vixens, Amanda and Abby and Beth were friends, and Melissa's part of their clique, and Reagan kind of wasn't part of their clique, but she kind of got into the clique because they were in LTTV. So once again, the LTTV factor brought them together. The Medusas are basically Jenny and Jordan's like friend group. So they played D&D before they started with the Medusas as a group of friends. So they're already a group. And I think it shows in their role-playing style, too. Yeah, Aquabone, we need Cooper back in the game. You know, I've heard through the grapevine that, like, Cooper's around, and I thought it would be cool, maybe over Christmas break, to bring Cooper into a D&D game with a few of the other alumni. You know, maybe just as kind of a one-shot live stream adventure thing. So we'll see if I can get the kids back together over Christmas break. That's probably realistically the most likely opportunity to do that, because Thanksgiving break is not very long. It's like 4 days. It's like a long weekend. So a lot of the kids come in from their colleges on Wednesday night, and then they have Thanksgiving on Thursday. They're with their families Friday, Saturday, and they go home Sunday. So there's not a lot of time over Thanksgiving for them to get together, but Christmas break is usually 3 weeks long. 2 weeks for the high school, but 3 weeks for the college kids. So if there's a time for me to bring Cooper or any of the other alums back for a one shot, it would be over Christmas break. And I'm hoping to do that, guys, because I'm just as excited to see them as you, and I think it'd be fun to play. Have I ever tried out D&D Beyond? Yes. That's a good question, Smurf. I have, and I don't have anything against it. I've used other people's D&D Beyond accounts, and I found it very easy to use, very user friendly. I guess I'm just old school, and I like the tactile feeling of books. And I've even like had little contests where I look something up at the same time as somebody on D&D Beyond, and I'm faster at flipping to it in my book than they are in finding it on the app. So there's that. Bill, do you paint your own minis? Yes, but not very well. I'm pretty solid at painting terrain. I have very shaky hands, and I'm not very accurate with painting minis, and I'm not really that great with the amount of detail painting. So I guess the answer is yes, but I prefer not to if it's an important project. So if it's a mini that I really feel needs to be painted well, then I would have somebody who's got much better skills than me to do that. And in fact, I pretty much plan on commissioning DoD Spec Ops to do a couple more minis that I already have, but I need painted simply because I don't have the skills to do them. Now, speaking of minis, this is another good segue. Tricky Troy sponsored some minis, and I also purchased some minis for the season forecast, and the girls would like to paint their own minis, which I am all for. So I'm hoping that in the next few weeks we're gonna bring back Crafty Thursday, and we'll have some Thursday live streams where we're doing mini painting, and we'll have some nice close-ups with the cameras on the minis so you guys can follow along and just join us for a little mini painting. And if it goes well, maybe we'll keep that going, because I have a lot of minis and terrain that is ready to be painted. So we'll see how that goes. But yes, that should be fun if we can get that going. Wow, I'm really behind on the chat. Give me a second here. Yes, Tricky Troy got to actually watch one of the shows that we filmed. That'll be online next week. Why don't you use Volos or Xanathars in your games? I do. I will allow some things. It depends on the setting. That's a great question. So, on the island continent of New Wofotmai, there are many races, but not all. Not all races. There are no furbolgs on the continent. So, for example, if you wanted to make a furbolg character, that simply doesn't exist on that continent. There are also not genasi on that continent. What else? The merfolk. So there are a few races from some of the different publications that just don't exist on that continent. But many of them do. Now, in some of my other continents in my original world, there are few, if any, other racial choices. So the continent of Arrakazine, for example, the only player character race option is human, because that's the only race. So it's really, it depends on the setting. And I have other continents where there are some races that are available, and those are the only races that are available, and humans aren't available. So it's kind of a mix. D&D with high school teachers is still a possibility. Yes, it is. I think that it's not for a lack of interest. I have several D&D teachers, D&D teachers, my brain. It's Friday. I have several teachers who have said that they'd love to do a game of D&D with high school teachers. It's just organizing the time, because all of them are busy. They're all parents who have families, and many of them are coaches or advisors for clubs. So it's really just a matter of finding the time to do it. Do you plan on making videos on making or planning for terrain? Yes. I have a ton of terrain-based videos on my channel, tutorials. That's kind of how my channel started off. with like unboxings and crafting terrain. I haven't made any new terrain in a pretty long time, but I do want to kind of get back into that, and I'd like to also do some props, like how to make props for your game to give to players. Partially because so many of you guys have donated really cool things that I can integrate into the games. And I want to be able to kind of give back in a way and share some of my ideas about how to do that. So hopefully, that can be rolled into some of the Crafty Thursday stuff. Not just mini painting, but terrain making and terrain painting. So I've got a lot of stuff, both made and not yet made, that could be used. Good questions. Mushu, DM question. I faced in my session prep this week. How do you stat NPCs or enemies that are essentially player classes like the Finoops being warlocks? Do they have character sheets or stat blocks? That's a great question. It depends on how much I'm going to use the NPC. It depends on whether or not I think the NPC is going to have to actually interact with the party to the extent where I'm rolling. So I don't just mean combat. I mean, for sure, if I think there's a chance that the party's going to fight this NPC, then you need a stat block with like levels and hit points and AC and spells and whatever else. But even just socially, sometimes it's important to have like a summary so that like, what would you need to roll if you're trying to do deception? Or what would you need to roll if they're trying to pick someone's pocket with sleight of hand? So you kind of have to have an idea for the NPC in mind about how they're going to interact with the party. And if you think they're going to interact with the party to the extent where you're going to make rolls for that NPC, then it's probably good to just put a basic stat block together. How long have you been world building? For as long as I can remember. So my current world of Kikapulon started in 1998. So over 20 years. But one of the continents in that world was something that I came up with when I was 10. So that's over 36 years ago. And I still have like the original drawing of this thing on this like piece of scratch paper. I drew out the continent and like it was a very crude map, but I had this vision for this continent and how it would work. Like culture and history and everything. So I've always loved world building on a macro level where it's like a whole world, or on a micro level where it's just a little town or a kingdom, or just a small village. I love that. Partially because I like to use my imagination and I like to write. I think it's I don't know, there's something that I get out of it. I'm creating something. I like to build characters and I like to build NPCs too. So I feel like I've been world building for a long time, almost as long as I've been playing the game. Yeah, Robert, I am definitely going to be working with the students. They want to paint their own minis. And when I told them about painting terrain, they were very excited about that too. So that's definitely going to be a thing. Oh, Andy, thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Appreciate the love. Andy Hand, everybody, from I'm tongue twisted today, dude. Ugh. Limitless Adventures. Limitless-adventures.com. Andy and the Limitless guys will be at LionCon in February with us. But you don't have to go to LionCon to check out their products. They have an entire catalog online of amazing additional supplemental content, adventures, story hooks, encounters, NPCs, locations, you name it. They have a robust catalog. Not to mention, and Andy doesn't like to tout this a lot, but I like to support people who I've personally met and who I respect. And a lot of my fans, for whatever reason, have military experience, and Andy is one such veteran. And if there's a way for me to support a fellow gamer and a veteran who's served our country, then you bet your ass I'm going to do it. So go check out Limitless, because they are cranking out the content, and they have a Whitechapel setting right now. If you're into like the Jack the Ripper, Gaslight kind of London mystery stuff, that's the jam. It's going to be awesome, and you guys should check that out. That's on Kickstarter right now. So thank you for joining us, Andy, and thank you for coming to LionCon this year. I'm excited to have you guys come up. All right, let me get caught up here. Yes, Shalendor, words are hard. BP says, Bill has been world building so long, he built the world we live in right now. He did so well that you do not know this world is not real. Everything you know is wrong. Yeah, that's kind of true. I helped build a world for my uncle Greg Stanley when I was 12. Loved that aspect of the game, the creative process, and the ability to show someone what you see. Tori Fox, that is awesome. And speaking of world building and doing that when you're young, one of the continents in my original world was entirely created by my son. How many of you have seen the movie Amadeus? It's the biopic made back in the 80s about Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. There's a scene where Amadeus is in his deathbed, he's dying, and he's basically telling Salieri to write down all the music for the opera in his head, right? And Salieri's furiously writing down the music as Mozart's like telling him the entire opera, all the parts for it. That is the scene that closely explains what it was like when my son, Angus, unleashed his continent of Zarach on my brain. I mean, I sat down with a laptop, and it was like 3 hours of nonstop. I don't know where this kid came up with this. I mean, he had an entire continent. He had gods. He had a pantheon of gods. Names, descriptions, their alignments, everything. He had, I mean, he's played D&D a handful of times. So somewhere in the cosmos, something went into his brain, and the continent of Zarach came out. And extended history, like pages and pages of history, map, everything. Like he knew exactly what he wanted. So yeah, that's another continent on the original world, and it's amazing. And had I not told you that it was envisioned by a kid who was like 10 years old at the time, you'd never know. You'd think that I invented it. But I'm going to give credit to my son, because that continent was all him. Every player builds game worlds when playing or GMing. When you use your imagination in game, especially Theater of the Mind, because none are going to be the same. That is so true. That is so true, Paymaster. That is true. Robert, you are spot on. Have you ever thought about having an online D&D game with the fans sometime? Sorry. Yes. So one more thing that I will say is that I have a Patreon, and I have a number of very, very, very supportive and dedicated patrons who have been extremely patient with me, and I owe them multiple months of games. Some of you guys are have been incredibly patient, and it has taken me a long time to get to the point where I'm ready to schedule an online game with my patrons. So those of you who have pledged at a high enough level, you know who you are. I am going to be sending you information, and we are going to coordinate your schedules so that we could play online. And we're not going to start off with Fantasy Grounds or Roll20 or anything fancy. We're just going to start off with, Google Hangouts, something easy that works. and maybe evolve that into a combination of Google Hangouts and Discord or something else. But I need to get it started, and I have an entire campaign idea that I can't wait to run with you guys. So yeah, when it comes to running things for the fans, you know, I got to put my priorities in place, and that goes to my patrons who have paid and pledged to continue paying at that level. They get first dibs on the very precious free time that I have. Now, in terms of other opportunities, yeah, I'm totally open to that. As many conventions as I can run games at, I will do that. But, you know, running games online for me is something that Karafa and I have talked about different ways to do here. But it would have to be manageable, and it would have to be during very specific times where I have the time to do it. So that'd be something else that we would be looking at doing as well. Dirty Samurai, will you be videoing the Patreon game? That's a great question. So I have to put that question to my patrons. A lot of my patrons value their privacy, and I don't want to violate that. At the same time, I think it would be cool to record the Google Hangouts where we play the patron game. But I'm going to leave it up to my patrons. Now, certainly one way to do that would be to let the patrons, you know, not use their camera and just put an icon or a picture of their character up and, you know, see how that goes. I don't know. But honestly, that's not my top priority. My top priority is to give my patrons what they paid for at that level, which is the ability to play in a game. And not to make it so much about making it more content, but to make it a kind of a very special opportunity to be able to play in a game with a small select group of people, with me DMing for them, and to have it be something special, which is why I also want to run it in another part of the world where other people haven't been, to be able to kind of give them a unique opportunity and be able to let them play, you know, somewhere that nobody's gotten to yet. So that's kind of the big priority. Am I open to it? Yes, but it totally comes down to the patrons, whether or not they are comfortable. So thank you, Scott Marish. The other one is Matthew Mercer or Mike Merles. So I will say this, guys. Stay tuned, because we have many more episodes ahead of us. The Vixens and the Medusas, it's early on. Anything can happen. So if you're not caught up, get caught up, because we have new episodes. We're on a regular production schedule. That's part of the reason why some of my other content, I've been juggling Monster Monday and Table Topics and Feedback Friday and Wisdom Wednesday for my patrons, and 2 shows. But it's because of you guys and your support that we're able to do all this. So thank you truly from the bottom of my heart. It makes all the difference in the world. And I hope that every episode of season 4 gets a little better. You know, the students are still learning their way around the game. And around each other, you know, and remember that these are high school kids and they're still learning. So there's a lot of growth that's happening. But I also think it's fun, and I think progressively it's going to get more fun. My hope is that with every episode we record, they're going to become more comfortable, and they're going to learn the game more, and they're going to become more confident, and you guys will be able to enjoy that you know, sensation of seeing them kind of expand their horizons. So, but thank you guys. Yeah, I see your comment about Google Hangouts sucking. You know, Discord might end up being the way to go. I just don't know yet. Oh, thank you. Yeah, Shalendor mentioned Cult Cuisine, was a special episode cooking show thing that Jenny put out. We put a lot of work into that. And in fact, prepping for and then running the Halloween live stream did take a lot of effort as well. Huge special thanks to my right hand, Karafa, who is the engine that keeps the boat going. He's done incredible things to make the studio look better, sound better. We are working on things like literally every time we record, we make little adjustments and tweaks to try to make things better. So thanks to him as well. Yeah, so thank you guys, all of you guys. I appreciate it so much. And, again, if you guys, and thank goodness Jenny didn't cut off her fingers. Yes. Oh, this is Jenny's. Jenny made this. So Jenny made this, and it's still holding up. It's not rotten. It's a little baby pumpkin with a D20 on one side and the logo on the other. And she painted that. Isn't that amazing? Yeah, so this is kind of a new part of the collection, made by Jenny. So thank you guys once again for all your support. Appreciate it. And don't forget to click on that thumbs up button. There's 33 people, but only 19 thumbs ups. So click on that thumbs up. And we will see you guys next week with Feedback Friday. And maybe even have some of the alumni, if they come back for Thanksgiving break, maybe they'll be there too. So in the meantime, peace out. Love you guys. Have a great weekend.